Hey guys, it's Mrs. C back again with another edition of Learning at Home. Um, Today we're going to talk about reflections on a coordinate plane. I want to talk about reflections for a minute. We know what a reflection is. We look in the mirror, we see a reflection. We know that we can reflect back on our actions or our words or things like that. But in geometry, there's reflections too. And I always start this lesson off or this unit off with this little activity. So I'm just sorry that we don't get to do this in class or even just do a mini demonstration of it, but maybe you've done this before. Maybe in preschool, maybe in elementary school. I really hope you did, where you took a piece of paper and folded it in half and then put some paint on one side. It doesn't even matter how you put the paint on one side, right? Just put the paint on one side. And then you took your paper and you folded it in half and kind of smushed it out a little bit. And then you opened the paper back up and you had a reflection of what you've just done, okay? We're going to do the same thing with points on the coordinate plane, except we're not going to make cool pictures with paint or anything like that. But we are going to make some symmetry, and I know you definitely talk about symmetry in elementary school, with our points on our coordinate plane. So let's get started. So the first thing that I need you to know is what reflections are. Okay, reflections are a mirror image with points that are the same distance from the line of reflection. So we're going to talk about our lines as far as x coordinate and or x-axis and y-axis, right? We need to know that if the x-axis is the line of reflection, we're going to keep the x-coordinate. So it tells us in the problem when it says, hey, reflect it over the x-axis, they're telling you keep the x, right? And we're going to use the opposite y-coordinate. If the y-axis is the line of reflection, right, we're going to keep the y-coordinate and use the opposite, okay? This might seem a little confusing, but let's do a couple together and then I think you'll see my point. So the first things that we're going to do is do some that have a line of reflection for the x-axis. You'll notice I have a giant X here, right? And I want you to remember the x-axis is this horizontal one. So you're reflecting, when you reflect over the x-axis, you are going to reflect horizontally, just like the x-axis is on the coordinate grid. And I write myself a little note. You might want to write yourself this little doodle as well to help you remember. So if I'm going across the x-axis, I'm going to keep the same x, and I'm going to do the opposite y. There we go, the opposite y. Okay, I made that look like it says opposite E, but that's not what it means. It's opposite y. Okay, so if I have, for example, point A, and point A is located at 3, 1. Okay, I know how to go plot that. You know how to go plot that. We're just going to go over and go, all right, 3, 1. So I start at my origin. I'm moving on the x-axis first. I'm going 3 points to the right, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go up 1. And I'm going to label this as point A. Okay. If I'm asking you to reflect A over the x-axis, that means I want you to make a point. Like pretend this is a dot of paint and we're folding the paper over the x-axis, and I want to know where that other dot of paint is going to come up. This is called, the reflection is called A prime. Do you see the little mark there that I put there? It's called prime. And we are showing that that's a reflection with the prime. So I want to know what my new coordinates are. Again, if I'm reflecting over the x-axis, I'm going to keep the same x number. So if the 3 is the x, I'm going to keep 3. And my y is going to become its opposite. So what's the opposite of 1? We already know that. We know that is -1. So my A prime, or my reflection of A, is going to be at 3, -1. So I'm going to go over 3 and then down 1. And that gives me A prime. It's the reflection of it. It's like somebody put a piece of or a little daub of paint here, folded the paper over, and I got another daub of paint over there. Okay, let's try another one just real quick. Again, I can do any letters, that doesn't matter, right? So what if I have point R, okay? And I said that R is at -4, -1. Okay, so I go through and I'm going to plot -4, -1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to go down -1, and that gives me point R. And if I say to you, hey guys, I want you to reflect R, right, R prime, the reflection of it over the x-axis, that means I'm going to keep the same x number. So my x is -4, so I'm going to keep -4 because it tells me that's the one I'm going to keep. And I'm going to do the opposite for the y coordinate. So it's the opposite of -1 is 1. So my reflection, or my R prime, should be at -4, +1. And I'm going to mark it with R and the prime. Okay, does that make sense to you guys? We can do the same thing over the y axis. Okay, so here's my y. Again, I like to make myself a little note. So if it is a y, remember that the vertical axis is the y axis. So we are reflecting vertically down the y. Okay, and I make myself this little note. I could say same y, opposite x. Okay, same y, opposite x. So again, I can take points that I know, and I can do point B. And if I say that point B is at 5, 3, okay, I go and I plot it. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then +3, 1, 2, 3. And this is at letter B. Or this is letter B, that's right, my point. And if I want to know B prime, if I want to know the reflection of B prime, and I'm reflecting it over the y-axis, right? Remember, it tells you which one, we're going to keep the same y number. So I know my y is going to say 3. I'm keeping that same number. Now I have to do the opposite x, right? Because this is my x, this is my y. So the opposite of 5 is -5. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at this and I'm going to go, all right, I'm going out -5. There we go. I had to think there for a second. And then up 3. 1, 2, 3. And this would give me B prime. Again, it's like somebody put a dot of paint. They're folding on the y-axis, and they're going to smush it over and make a point there. Okay. We can do this with shapes as well. What if I had this shape, the square right here? Doot, 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 doot. Okay. And I name the shape A, B, C, D. Okay. And I want to know its reflection. I know already you can look at this and go, oh, bam, I can throw that in there. But I need to know the coordinates for the reflection. So if I know my original square, point A is at 1, -2. 1, -2, right? Then I know if I'm going to reflect this over the y-axis, that my A prime, right, the reflection should be over here, right? So if I'm reflecting over the y, I'm going to keep the y, and that's going to give me -1, -2, because I flipped it over that way. Okay, same thing, I'm going to go to B, and I'm going to say, oh, B is at 2, -2. 2, -2. Okay, so my B prime, again, if I'm reflecting it over the y-axis, right, I'm reflecting it over here, I'm going to keep my y the same. And this time to get over here, I would have to do the opposite of 2, which is -2. So I have to go -2, -2. And that's going to give me my point right there. Same thing, letter C is right here. Letter C is already at 1, -3. Okay. If I'm reflecting over the y-axis, I'm going to keep the y number, which is -3. I'm going to do the opposite. So the opposite of 1 is -1. So I'm going to go -1, -3, and that gives me a point right there. Last but not least, letter D. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to put letter D over here. Letter D, the original is at 2, -3, right? 2, -3. So the reflection, or the D prime for it, the reflected number, would be still at -3, but this case it's going to be, instead of 2, it's going to be -2. And I'm going to go over -2, -3. And if I draw or connect my dots, I then have a reflected picture, just as if this was a plot of paint and I've squished it over. So you just have to be careful when you're doing these on iExcel that you're actually paying attention to the line of reflection. And I'm going to post these pictures that I had made, these little doodles, same Y, opposite X, right? If it's on the X, it's going to be the same X, the opposite Y. And hopefully that will help you remember what you need to do as you're working through your iExcel skills. And that's it today, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.